Did you see Nancy Pelosi defend insider trading?
Just about to ask.
What'd you say? I don't know, guys. I'm doing great at it. You guys should try
it. A bunch of people were freaking out about it. I think it was Crystal and Sagar were doing. I didn't watch it, but I did see the headline that she apparently.
Oh, it's incredible! You have to watch it. It's like
she's just bypassing all the laws to make hella cash.
She looks so.
The reason that this idea to put a ban on stock trading for members of Congress is even a thing is because of Nancy Pelosi. I mean, she is rightfully criticized because she makes, I think, $174,000 a year, yet she has a net worth of approximately $413 million. In 2024, Nancy Pelosi's stock portfolio, this was a fascinating statistic to me, grew 70% in 1 year.
Nancy Pelosi's political farewell just got torched courtesy of Joe Rogan and Karoline Leavitt. Forget the usual polite send-offs. This was a full-on roast that scorched its way through decades of double standards, carefully curated smiles, and stock market-savvy speeches. They didn't hold back, painting Pelosi as the master of backroom deals and media theatrics, wrapped in designer suits and bulletproof press spin. If you expected a graceful exit, think again. This takedown doesn't just lift the curtain, it blows the whole stage apart. Brutal, biting, and unexpectedly hilarious. Buckle up.
Did you see the Nancy Pelosi thing? The new one?
She was being interviewed and then was like, I didn't want to talk about that.
Yeah, Anderson Cooper. You put that on. Anderson Cooper, he sneaks it in. She's like, I came in here to talk about the anniversary of Medicaid. Like, she cares about Medicaid. She's worth an estimated $400 million now.
How? What's the salary? $70,000 a year?
$170,000 a year, something like that. $200,000 a year.
People on this, he doesn't want to see people like Nancy Pelosi enriching themselves off of public service and ripping off their constituents in the process. As for the mechanics of the legislation and how it will move forward, the White House continues to be in discussions with.
Joe Rogan and Karoline Leavitt didn't just roast Nancy Pelosi, they incinerated her legacy. This wasn't a casual jab or a playful dig, it was a full-scale flamethrower aimed straight at decades of polished hypocrisy, insider politics, and a persona propped up by Botox and broken promises. Forget roasting marshmallows, this was a five-alarm blaze of public humiliation that left no part of her carefully crafted image unscorched.
The amount of stock trading that's done by members of Congress, the amount of fucking money that they make when they know decisions that are going to be signed and passed. They know laws that are going to be put into place. They know, like there was one recently that we're talking about Nancy Pelosi and the amount of money she invested in Tesla right before Biden signed this EV bill, electric vehicle bill. It's like 1.2 million. Find out.
Pelosi, gripping that gavel like it's her last shield against fading into political oblivion, didn't stand a chance. Joe Rogan came out swinging like he was prepping for a championship bout, and his first hit landed squarely on her infamous wine cave. Let's be honest, this is the same woman who thought pandemic leadership meant flaunting $13 pints of designer ice cream while everyday Americans were scrambling for toilet paper. She was giving mansion tours on national TV while small businesses gasped for air under crushing lockdowns. If that's Pelosi-style leadership, then apparently let them eat gelato was the guiding principle.
Here, let's watch this because it's so funny.
Let me just read what he said. I'm sorry that we had some sort of technical issue. Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to read that? We're here to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid. That's what I agreed to come to talk about.
Yeah, but I wanted
what that means in the election.
I wanted to give you a chance just to respond. He accused you of insider trading. What's your response to that?
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support the trading of members of Congress. Not that I think anybody's doing anything wrong. If they are prosecuted.
Karoline Leavitt didn't pull a single punch. She took one look at Pelosi's so-called legacy and saw a dusty museum of contradictions. One moment, Pelosi's dramatically warning that democracy is under siege. The next, she's shredding speeches on live TV like a toddler throwing a tantrum in a paper mill. It's never really been about defending democracy, it's been about protecting her corner office and an endless pipeline of paid speaking gigs. If Pelosi ever had a guiding principle, it likely packed up and left years ago buried under a mountain of lobbyist handshakes and insider trading whispers.
If you talked with the president of his position on the stock trading ban bill before Congress. He obviously had pretty loaded comments about Senator Hawley. There's some reporting that they've since spoken. What is his position on the current status of that?
The president has spoken to Senator Hawley, who called him, and the president took that call. As the president said in the Roosevelt Room yesterday, conceptually, he of course supports the idea of ensuring that members of Congress and United States senators who are here for public service cannot.
Joe tore into the absurd theater of Pelosi's perfectly staged chaos. He pointed out how she constantly played the role of leader while trailing behind her own party scandals, always ready to deflect blame onto the other side simply for existing. Her political strategy felt more like performance art, a mix of over-the-top hand gestures, non-stop orange man bad hysteria, and a generous serving of please ignore the fact I've been in power since dinosaurs roamed Capitol Hill.
Sucks.
Well, insider trading is against the law.
Yeah.
How is that not insider trading?
Right.
If you know that someone's going to sign a bill and that bill is going to be a massive boost to the electrical vehicle industry, just as an example, and you know that bill's going to be signed, so right before that bill's signed, you buy a fuckload of stock in electrical vehicles. And then the next day, or whenever it was, that bill gets passed, and then that stock goes up, and you make a shit ton of money.
And every time Pelosi speaks, it's like watching a glitchy animatronic from a forgotten theme park. Her hands flap around like they're trying to hail a passing plane. Her words stumble out in a weird blend of smug superiority and short-circuited syllables. Yet, after all these years, she still acts surprised when people question her judgment, as if she wasn't the one who signed off on a stimulus bill packed with more pork than a Texas barbecue.
Portfolio outperformed every single large hedge fund in that same year, and even more than doubled the returns of Warren Buffett's Berkshire. Years later, Nancy Pelosi can thank President Trump today for the 104% retaliatory tariff that will be going into effect on China. In 2007, Chuck Schumer spoke of our nation's crippling trade deficit, saying these are the kinds of records the American people don't want us to be breaking. The administration needs to move beyond words, take action now to reverse a trend that threatens our prospects for future.
Joe roasted Pelosi's plastic public image until it completely melted away. The carefully staged optics, the color-coordinated outfits, the tightly controlled press conferences, none of it could hide the truth. Pelosi's tenure was more about controlling the narrative than actually solving problems. She spent more time kneecapping younger Democrats who might actually bring change than tackling anything real. Unless, of course, it involved a televised prayer moment paired with pushing impeachment like it was the latest seasonal trend. OE didn't skip over the insider trading saga either. He called out the absurd theater of Pelosi's stock picks consistently beating the market, as if she had a magic 8-ball. If regular Americans had half her luck, the whole country would be retired on yachts by now. But when pressed about her suspiciously savvy financial moves, Pelosi turned into a human firewall, dodging, deflecting, and ducking accountability like it was a high-stakes dodgeball match. Karoline doubled down, tearing apart the myth of Pelosi as a noble public servant. Her so-called service has mostly been about staging photo ops while passing bloated legislation no one bothers to read. Every decision seems aimed at preserving her relevance, not pushing anything close to real progress. That's why she talks about the Constitution like she wrote it, but acts like it's just another prop for her next press conference.
And it's right in front of your face, like the Nancy Pelosi situation. She's never made more than $175,000 a year. She's worth $100 and something million. Did you ever see the one where they confronted her about being able to insider trade? You never saw it?
No.
It's wild.
Over the course of your career, has her husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information you received from him?
No, absolutely not.
And the hypocrisy. It's woven into Pelosi's political DNA. She slammed Trump for dividing the country, yet she was the mastermind behind division, always wrapped in designer scarves. Every time she spoke, she didn't build bridges, she dug partisan trenches deeper. Her speeches weren't about unity, they were power plays dressed up in theatrical outrage, designed to rile up MSNBC panels and social media mobs. Joe wasn't holding back either. He exposed Pelosi's lifelong addiction to political theater, where nothing gets done unless there's a camera rolling. When cities burned, she posed in a Kent cloth, turning a moment of justice into a bizarre cultural cosplay. It wasn't about justice, it was branding. Everything she does is branding. She doesn't pass the torch, She clutches it like Gollum with a pension plan. Karoline dropped the mic with her ruthless take on Pelosi's legacy. Despite all the talk of progress, the only thing Pelosi really advanced was her Botox schedule and her bank account. She's perfected the art of pretending to care, delivering emotional performances that would make daytime soap operas jealous, all while legislating like she's on autopilot.
Watching the panic in her face, realizing that Trump is now president, and they're talking about literally going after her for insider trading, and the undeniable evidence that they have had better results on the stock market than literally anyone ever.
Yeah.
And they have access to information about laws that are going to be passed.
Yeah.
If that's not insider trading.
Joe wrapped it all up by asking how someone could spend half a century in government and still leave everything in shambles. The answer: because fixing anything was never the goal. Pelosi's entire career has been about one thing: Pelosi clinging to power, controlling the narrative, and acting like the country owes her a standing ovation for decades of dysfunction. Of course, she tried to spin her exit as a graceful handing of the baton. But no one's buying it. It wasn't a transition, it was a retreat, all while dodging the corruption brewing in her own backyard. She talked morality while playing Monopoly with the rules. She promised transparency, then slammed the door on every camera trying to catch her deals. If contradiction were a career, Pelosi would have lifetime tenure. Joe, ever the closer, reminded everyone that Pelosi is like a legacy brand stuck on endless reboots, flashier packaging, zero new substance. She's the Windows Vista of leadership, glitchy, outdated, and desperately overdue for replacement.
Biden, chill out. Go on a vacation.
The things he says are so inappropriate for a president of the United States. The comments he makes about women.
Also, why are you still doing it? You're older than Biden.
You're asking me about the appropriateness of the actions of this president? So completely inappropriate in so many ways. It's almost a given.
Not even about the money, it's about access, the power.
He comes in with doggy-doo on his shoes, and everybody who works with him has that on their shoes too.
The people who carry your bags and tote you.
In June of 1996, Nancy Pelosi spoke on the House floor. She urged her colleagues at the time to fight against the status quo trade policies that had contributed to America's trade deficit with China. In fact, Nancy Pelosi said, "How far does China have to go? How much more repression? How big a trade deficit? How many jobs have to be lost for the American workers? How much dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, 'I will not endorse the status quo'?" Those are the words of Nancy Pelosi in 1990.
Now, as Pelosi fades into the background with her carefully choreographed farewell tour, Americans are left with the wreckage. Policies that crumble, speeches that aged like expired cheese, and a political resume that somehow covers everything but delivers nothing. The greatest service Pelosi might have done for the country? Simply stepping aside. In that silence, Joe and Karoline stepped in not with empty platitudes, but with ruthless honesty. They tore down decades of dysfunction disguised in designer outfits and staged outrage. No matter how many magazine covers she graced or how often she threw shade at Trump, none of it changed the truth. Pelosi was a relic pretending to be a revolutionary, and with that, the roast was complete. Pelosi wasn't just politically undressed, she was vaporized. Joe and Karoline didn't just torch her legacy, they reduced it to ashes. All that remains now is the hollow echo of fake applause and the lingering scent of burnt designer suits.